There's quite a bit to talk about today, and I want to remind everybody that first and foremost, when you first see the video, you might say, wow, this is 25 minutes long. I can't do this. I say no to that because, look, you don't have to watch it all at once. You could watch it over a period of time, and if you listen to what I actually have to say without sounding arrogant, you'd be surprised that I'm actually a little bit smart with this stuff, and I may know certain things that other people don't bring to the table, although a lot of it is different things that you could hear from other sources. Odell Beckham Jr. couldn't find him on the football field, and now we find him in the headlines for all of the wrong reasons. We're going to talk about that. Luke Kuchely calling it a quits at age 28. A Hall of Famer for sure. We're going to talk about that. Larry Fitzgerald, the gift that does not stop giving. We are going to talk about that. And most importantly, Carlos Beltran out as New York Mets manager. He figured that he was caught red-handed despite denying it, and that there was nothing he could do. We're going to talk about the MLB Scandal, Luke Kuechly, Larry Fitzgerald, and maybe even the Eminem album, because why not? This is a Newsfield Friday that you won't want to miss.
For Cleveland Browns wide receiver Odell Beckham Jr. The NOPD is confirming that the former LSU star is wanted for simple battery. The charge stems from an incident in the Tiger locker room after the national championship football game in the Superdome.
Oh man, OBJ. OBJ's been a good boy up until this recent story. Now, this recent story referring to shows him in the LSU locker room after the game, and I guess the officer, or I don't know exactly what the cigar rules are over there, but the officer was trying to, I guess, not arrest, but with giving the LSU players notice for what they were doing. And not only that, as the LSU officer was, or not LSU officer, as the police officer was kind of in a bent over position, Odell proceeded to smack him on the ass. And now he was doing it playfully. He meant no harm. But when it's all said and done, a lot of people are going to look at this from the angle of, he assaulted an officer. Now, again, if you were to watch it and you know the situation, that's not exactly what happened. But at the end of the day, if you're looking at it from a technical standpoint, he did put his hands on a police officer when it's all said and done, whether you're joking or not. But me personally, if I was the officer, I would... It really depends, because if the officer was already engaged in this situation and he did that, you see the officer look around and OBJ use hand gestures to kind of, you know, just... I don't know if he was trying to defend the players or what have you or not. But the reason why I might side with the officer on this side is because if you really look at it, you've seen Odell before in the railing video that I had in the intro. You didn't see it because it wasn't part of the video. But you saw Odell kind of wobbling a lot. And you know, it was clear that he was on some shit. He was definitely drunk. He may have been on drugs. We don't know exactly, but you can tell by his mannerisms and the way that he's moving that he was definitely intoxicated and on something as well. Obviously, he was allowed in the locker room. It's Odell Beckham Jr. They're not going to deny him that. But he was definitely on something. And so what I'm getting at is that the New Orleans police issued an arrest warrant for Odell Beckham Jr. I don't know exactly what happened after that video, because what they would have done is apprehend him at the time frame. I feel like there's some details that we don't necessarily know about, but a warrant for his arrest has been issued, and I don't know exactly how this is going to go, because I believe the law, what it says is coming down to is him having a $1,000 bail, and that's worth about maybe one Lay's potato chip for Odell Beckham Jr. I don't know exactly what's going to happen. This has been about a couple days since this surfaced, and there's been no updated news on it, so I don't really know. Are they going to really find and arrest OBJ? Is he going to come forward, get the bail? To me, I don't think it's as big of a deal as I originally thought it was, because, again, it's still sexual harassment, but it's also in a locker room, and again, that's not making it okay. But if you look at it, you know, there's so much no homo. There's so much ass grabbing that goes on into a locker room. Again, I've been only in, like, I haven't necessarily played sports at that level, but I have a general idea of what a sports locker room is like, and just even a gym locker room in general is just very rowdy and loud, and there's a lot of you know, sometimes you know, slapping of the ass or whatnot. But at the end of the day, it was an officer. It was not a player. I don't think Odell Beckham Jr. meant any harm. We don't think he meant any harm. But again, there could be a lot more into the story that we're not necessarily talking about. And part of that is the fact of him being intoxicated. He was definitely intoxicated. You don't even have to be there to know that. He was wobbling on the sidelines and just all of that. So I think that may have factored into his arrest warrant being issued as a disturbance whatsoever. I don't think the LSU players were bothered. I actually think they probably appreciated his presence. but the cigar smoking. We also saw Joe Burrow. He was smoking a fat one after the victory over Clemson in the national title game. But, for me, I don't think it's that big of a deal. Now, had it been a female police officer, again, the script would have totally been flipped. And that would have changed everything. And it shouldn't, but that's the way that it would come off, because sexual harassment towards, I feel like, females in that type of sense is taken a lot more at a heavy dose. And that's not the way it should be, but that's the way it is. Again, if you I'm not justifying it, but if you look at it, you can really see that he didn't mean any harm, and I personally don't think it was that big of a deal. But we'll see what happens going forward. But yes, an arrest warrant has been issued for Odell Beckham Jr. following that instance. That is not the video that I showed you previously, but it is one where he was seen rubbing the female girl's leg. But I think that he was just doing that because he was intoxicated or whatever. But I don't really think that was the biggest of the deal. But we'll see where it happens. Arrest warrant is out for the New Orleans police on Odell Beckham Jr. And the next topic has been probably the biggest topic in all of sports of recent, and that has been the MLB scandal. And it is getting heavy, and it is getting heavy fast. The Astros, they were banned. Both AJ Hinch and Lunro, the manager, was banned for the whole entire season following it. And the Astros owner, Jim Crane, if I'm correct, wanted no part in it. So what he said was, you are both fired. And that's all she wrote for that. So now that is how it started. Hinch and AJ Hinch and John Lunro, I believe is his name, was both fired by the Astros. Then we figured out that Alex Cora had some type of play into it, and the Red Sox were a part of this as well. And Alex Cora agreed to part ways. That's a nice way of saying, get the hell out, you're fired. And then yesterday, if I'm correct, Carlos Beltran was part of this as well, and he denied most of involvement, and everybody else kind of, they kind of knew they were guilty. I don't really think they said too much about it, but Carlos Beltran completely denied all of it, and then all of a sudden yesterday he agreed to part ways as the New York Mets coach of the next upcoming season. And I think that a lot of people make a joke about the punishment being that he is managing the Mets. And believe it or not, in a very slow process, I do think the New York Mets are heading in the right direction. But he was agreed to part ways. So now I look at the newspaper this morning, and I think this is great. Buck Showalter's name comes up as the New York Mets coach. And he was a great coach for the Orioles. Obviously, the way it ended was following the Orioles, the Orioles didn't really have the talent on their team to develop anything big, and they were just atrocious. And when I mean bad, if you've been following baseball, the last couple of years, the Orioles were absolutely terrible. They've been the worst team in the league for at least 3 years running until this past season, and that's what resulted in the firing of Buck Showalter. But he is the mastermind, if I'm correct, behind Derek Jeter, and he's done so much, and he is a very smart coach when it gets said and done. Will he take the New York Mets to a World Series? Not this year. But Buck Showalter could be a very good name for the New York Mets to make an investment in. And that could be something coming forward. Whoever came up with that idea, that was very smart, because we know that Buck Showalter has been in the Yes Network and studios and just doing various things. And I'm sure that he would be honored to come back and be a coach. And the next Mets coach is not going to be an easy job. Not just because it's in New York, but because it's the Mets, and their team is started to play better recently. And by recently, I mean the last year. But their fans are very tired, and they're tired of excuses. They're tired of miserable seasons and disappointments. And I think that Buck Showalter could be a man that could perhaps put it in a better direction going forward. But Carlos Beltran is out, both up on the Astros that I mentioned. Hinch and Lunro are out. Cora is out. And the Astros, we also saw, after Jose Altuve's walk-off, him pointing that he may perhaps have a patch on him. I think the Astros are the #1 suspect in this MLB cheating scandal, and it is just not cool. As a Yankees fan, you're pissed off because, in all reality, we would have still had to play a National League team, but the past 2 years, we could have won the World Series both years. 2018 Red Sox were not going to be stopped by anybody. They were cheating. 2017 Astros, we were 1 game away from punching our ticket to the World Series, and I believe that we would have beaten the Dodgers that year in the World Series. And this coming season, cheating again. So I'm not sure we would have beat the Nats in the World Series, but we could have been three-peating. But I do think the Yankees have something next year, and they are going to be on a true mission. Next topic. Luke Kuechly makes his decision to retire from the NFL at age 28. And I don't know why this is a shock to a lot of you. Andrew Luck did it, and he's probably doing it for the same reason that Andrew Luck is doing it. Luke Kuechly is young, 28 years is young, but 28 in football is about probably your prime, depending on what position you play. And if you're a running back, it is probably treading towards the end of your career, unless you're Adrian Peterson. Luke Kuechly announces his retirement, and a lot of this, to my belief, had to do with injuries. Luke Kuechly was a player that was injured constantly. He was a phenomenal defensive player, one of the best middle linebackers that you will see, but he was constantly hurt. He had concussions a lot, and I just think that he got to a point where, you know, if you saw his little interview, he wanted to keep playing, but he chose not to because he doesn't think that playing football should come before his health, and I absolutely agree with it. Luke Kuechly will be a Hall of Famer. He does have the stats, and I wish him the best in retirement, as we all do. He was a great player to watch, and if you ever used him in Madden, he was damn good. Luke Kuechly announces his retirement at the age of 28, and we wish him the best in retirement. The gift that never stops giving is Larry Fitzgerald. I don't know how he keeps doing it, but he does. Larry Fitzgerald announced that he will come back to the Arizona Cardinals for another season. This is a one-year deal, if I'm correct, to be a wide receiver for the Cardinals. And for those of you that know, Larry Fitzgerald has been an amazing talent, and I believe this is somebody said 17th season? That's just unbelievable. Playing for the Arizona Cardinals. And, you know, one of the things I think about with Larry Fitzgerald, I think about durability. If he was to come back next season again and the Titans were to offer him, I would love to have Larry Fitzgerald because he can bring that veteran leadership. And I think that Larry Fitzgerald coming to the Titans would be huge because a lot of our wide receivers are very young and they need to learn a lot about playing wide receiver. Especially for him to mentor someone like A.J. Brown would be fantastic, but I'm just speaking off the top of my head. But Larry Fitzgerald's coming back. He is second on the list for all-time receiving yards and touchdowns, I believe, as well. He will not catch Jerry Rice. Larry Fitzgerald is going on one-year contracts now because he wants to see if he can play. He may have a couple years left. I really don't know. I keep thinking Larry Fitzgerald's going to retire, but you know he's still doing decent. He's not, you know, breaking any leagues or anything, but he's still a wide receiver that you could rely on probably in a big moment. But he's coming back, and I think that Jerry Rice is thousands of yards ahead of him, but he is second on receiving yards. But Jerry Rice was a different animal. But Larry Fitzgerald is coming back. So that about sums it up, folks. I just wanted to give you some news real quick. I'll hold you over on Friday. As far as Saturday goes, I don't know if I will be uploading anything tomorrow. Probably not. And Sunday is a damn sure not. Sunday is Championship Sunday, and I'm going to be sweating all day. Monday will probably be, if I'm able to do so, I may roll out Monday with your conference championship review. I don't know exactly. And I'm going to try to incorporate different other things. I got different kinds of skits coming along too as well. So I just want to say thank you to everybody for watching. We've gotten a lot popular, more so recently on the channel, for our reviews and just different things. So that basically is just a summary. Again, the MLB Scandal. I'll update you guys if other things come of it. Luke Kuechly retiring. Best of luck to him. Larry Fitzgerald coming back. I don't know how he does it. And Odell Beckham Jr. Situation as well. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for watching. The pleasure's mine.